Welcome to Paris Paranormal. I'm Terry Keel.
I'm April.
And this is the place you can tune in, ask questions, get answers, and find out what's been going on in your life when you hear those crazy bumps in the night or you see something odd. Or, maybe like shadows or something weird, frozen ghosts.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Big
So
time.
anyway, we're glad you're here. And that's April's kitchen window, and this is what we got on April's
I texted
kitchen
them and
window.
said, "Come over, you gotta take a picture of this."
The ghost that was haunting her actually froze to death outside.
Bless
so.
its heart.
That's really not April's window, but what the heck,
I hope it's all right.
We're so glad that you're here tonight because there are really so many things that can and do happen to all of us occasionally, and we don't always understand why these things happen. Well, that's why April and I are here. I personally have had a lifetime of strange and extremely enigmatic happenings that, the Lord has walked me through and given me understanding for. And tonight, we have a fun-filled evening planned for you because we have Jim Penniston here with us. And he is famous for the Rendlesham Forest experience that he had. It was his account that we'll be talking about tonight. So please be sure to put any questions that you might have for him in the live chat area tonight, and we'll try to get to them. If not, we'll have information later. You can reach out to him at one of his sites. And he's got a very interesting life account and an amazing story to tell about it. And he had a very tantalizing sighting in Suffolk, England, back in 1980 that became a worldwide phenomenon. And I'm so happy that he's with us tonight to share his side of that account with us. So hold on to your hats. It's presented by him tonight, and you don't want to miss any of what he's got to share with us, so hang on. I will say that he had a very powerful, unique UFO experience, in case you didn't know that this was about a UFO, and we want you in on it. So without any further ado, let's just read his bio here. He's an author, he's a speaker, and he's worked at the United States Air Force Security Police. He is currently retired. And he was a staff sergeant at the time of his incident in the Bentwaters RAF Woodbridge in Suffolk, England. And his book, The Rendlesham Enigma, is a must-read. It's the story of his experience told only as he, the witness, could tell it. And so let's, without further ado, just bring Jim on and talk about his book and everything else. Hey, welcome.
Yeah. Oh, it's great to be here.
Yes. I'll shut up now. Yes, it's good to see you. I'll be quiet now and let you do all the sharing. And I'm so excited you're here with us.
Well, Terry, I've known you and your husband for what now?
Oh gosh, many years, maybe 15. I don't
know.
know.
Kevin, I don't know if Kevin remembered me when before you were married. I don't know. He was always so busy, doing electronic
working.
stuff. Working. That's what he was doing. Yeah. I'll give you a little brief background since it didn't happen in the United States. It happened over in Suffolk, England, which is about 65 miles north east of London. There was two bases that were manned by the United States Air Force back then in 1980. One base was RAF Bentwaters, which was the main operating base, and then 3 miles away, as a crow would fly, was Woodbridge, and in between the two bases was Rendlesham Forest. Mm-hmm. So that there's about 10,000 people that worked there. And there's quite a few. And we had to use RAF. They used the term RAF because of the Status Forces Agreement. They didn't want to have U.S. bases in England, so they had a figurative person, a squadron commander that was British, and they called RAF Bentwaters, RAF Woodbridge. So get that put aside. And the event happened in December 1980. It was just after Christmas Day, and we were working smaller shifts. Our flight had maybe 60, 75 people. Jump in anytime if I use a term that you don't understand. Okay, I
Sure.
don't want to
Okay.
use. After 30 years of retirement, I think I could stop using words like, flight and some military ones like that. The flight is the unit that's the people that were working. And anyway, there's about 60 of them. Uh, I get a call right after we did posting on Woodbridge, and I get a call I was at the chow hall, and I was going to go ahead and, grab a cup of coffee, try to stay awake that night. And anyway, I get a call to use the landline from the chow hall to Central Security Control in Bentwaters, our control center. And I went over and I said, "What's going on?" It was Sergeant Coffee. And he says, "I need you to go to the East Gate." He said, "There's a situation out there." He said, "With law enforcement." I went, "Okay." I said, "What is it?" You wouldn't tell me. And I tell you what, that is so unusual
Oh.
that the control center would not give you a heads up what was going on. He says that the law enforcement patrolman will brief you on what's going on. Okay. So I go out there, takes a couple minutes, get to the East Gate. I contact the senior law enforcement patrolman, Staff Sergeant Steffens. His name's Bud, okay? And I asked him, that's a tough name. So what's going on, Bud? And he says, and he just say a word. He just pointed over to the forest over in Rendlesham. And he said, something landed over there. I go, landed? I said, nothing can land in that forest. It's just, it was, the British used it like a crop. They would go ahead and plant trees, let them grow, cut them down, plant them, and they were separated like 6 feet apart, 5 feet apart. I mean, there's nothing that can land there. I said, you mean something crashed? I started seeing, multiple lights over there in the forest. Colors like orange and some tints of white and stuff like that. It appeared it could be an aircraft crash. So I go to the direct line, and that was the law enforcement desk, and they patched me through to the control center at Central Security Control, because as of that time, it was a law enforcement situation, and this is important for people that follow the case. And when I got there, we called that chopping, change of operational command and control. I was now in charge of the on-scene commander. And so that means Central Security Control is the control center in charge. And Sergeant Coffee, I says, well, I'm here. I says, and there's something in the woods. I said, something on fire, I think. And he said, and you gotta, this whole conversation takes 30 seconds. Everything's going on.
Right.
Because there's like 4 other people working with him, are listening in. The flight sergeant over there, the shift commander, the comm plotter, all kinds of stuff. And I think the comm plotter told Coffee, the patroller, he says, yeah, we had, the radar says that we lost contact with a bogey, a craft of some kind, aircraft. Approximately, says, 5 minutes ago. And so at that time, we had, with the status of forces agreement, we could not go off base and deploy off base unless we had an emergency situation. So they called through the wing command post, the base commander, Colonel Conrad, and Colonel Conrad gave permission for us to go off base. He did that through, the shift commander. I know that sounds like a lot of detail, but it's important.
No, I know.
But anyway,
no problem.
And it's 30 seconds. So, I am working. I am not out there, I don't know, on a joyride or some kind of. I'll tell you why. We had such problems. The height of the Cold War was on. We had all kinds of other terrorist type
Right.
activity going on. Not the kind that we have today. We had the Bader Meinhof group, the Red Brigade, the Irish Republican Army, those kind of people. Plus, had a port that was only like 10, 15 minutes away, which is Felixstowe, and we had constant, Russian trawlers and stuff like that in there. So there was a lot going on. And so, anyway, I was ordered out there. They told me to take 2 airmen with me. I wanted to take another sergeant with me, but they said, no, just go out there. We'll send Sergeant Chandler from Bentwaters over. He'll take your spot, on the base. I said, okay. And so we deployed off base, myself, Airman Kabanzak and John Burles. They're both young airmen, but Kabanzak was a security airman. So, which is different because for this situation, possible aircraft downing, it's all security. And so I had a radio handheld type, and Kabanzak had a handheld one, and Burroughs didn't have nothing. So we go on out there, and they had berms, okay?
Yeah.
Earthen berms, maybe 5 feet high, but it's because of the way they planted the trees. Anyway, it was all cut down for probably about 200 yards or 150 yards, and we got to the tree line. I was getting up to pretty close to it, maybe 50 feet, 100 feet, something like that. And I couldn't go any farther with the vehicle I had. I had a CJ5 Jeep. And so what I did is I broke open the crash kit for the aircraft downing, and which it gave me a plotting map so I could plot it off base, so everybody else would know exactly where it's at. And I set up an entry control point there, and I put Airman Kabanzak on it. What he would do is he would go ahead and first responders coming, medical personnel, crash personnel, they would all go through that point. Okay?
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know they had that much technology back then. I'm sorry.
How long is this show?
An hour.
Okay, I don't want to go too long. That's why. So, yeah, and the other thing is, so it was me and the law enforcement airmen. We continued on foot, got up to Freedom, but I was having problems with my radio. I mean, to transmit, and they couldn't hear me I transmitted, I couldn't hear the control center. Anyway, I told Kabanzak on the radio, I says, you work as a relay, and just relay everything I say. And he said, okay, what? And at that point in time, as I entered the woods, there was a physical, the craft that was once brightly colored, there was just a low glow white light coming out from one of the berms, behind one of the berms. And that's a good way to look at it. That's a nice way to look at that. It looks something similar. And as I got closer to it, I could feel, physical effects of it. At first, I thought it was like adrenaline because I was getting felt like static electricity in my hair and face and skin, clothes. Yeah, but I thought it was just, I was just reacting to it, chemically in my, as a human. And,
had you ever acted that way about anything before?
No.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. And anyway, so I'm running my checklist, and at that point in time, for the air, it was a security response option for a downed aircraft. So as I got near the berm, the light has almost dissipated, and I tell you, that forest is dark. I mean, there's the canopy cuts out all overhead light. Yeah. And so,
were you scared to
anyway,
death? Were you scared to death at that point? Were you ever really afraid?
that was that is the hardest part I had to write in the book. The emotions were so many. They went from terrified
Yeah.
to curious to euphoric. Okay.
Yeah, I
Oh,
got
wow.
it. Yeah. Can you even imagine?
That's
Bravo to you. I don't know how you didn't just faint. I think.
But that seems to be normal, that euphoric feeling.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know about normal. I had reasons why all those things happened. I explained it, but anyway, as the dissipation went, like I said, it felt. Yeah, there's a lot of things going. And it also was silent. That's why there's no noise out there. And anyway, there was like a fairly good flash of light that popped up. I thought something exploded. It was a natural reaction. I hit the ground, and then not hearing nothing, and then just see a bright light. I got up, went over the berm, and then as I tried to come up over the berm, I tell you that one of the effects. Have you ever walked waist deep in a pool of water?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's the feeling that when I had trying to walk.
Really?
It was
Felt heavy?
It was hard. Yeah, and labored.
Was it
Very
cold,
labored.
Jim? Was it cold there? Were
Well,
you like freezing?
The air temperature was like, I don't know, 33, 32 degrees.
No, that's
It wasn't
freezing.
bad.
Yeah.
Well, it's not for, I've been, 40 below is freezing. I mean, that
Yeah.
32, 33 was okay.
I'm a wimp.
And anyway, as the light started to dissipate again, because as it got dimmer, I could see a silhouette of a craft forming, and finally the light dissipated, and the only light that was happening at the time that was there was coloring running through the fabric of the craft. Okay, and then there was lighting somehow underneath. And this was a triangular type craft. It had a dorsal fin on it that's pretty large. I think I got pictures of that in the book. I
Yes.
don't know.
Yeah. Kevin has some pictures.
Oh, does he?
Mhm.
And
Wow.
and so then it was, well, that's not it, but that's close.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not. You know what? The Forest Service asked me that the symbols are correct on it, but the forestry they asked me and they work on it. And they says, "Hey, the model that you want is going to cost millions of dollars. We can't do that." He said, "We got a guy that does iron work, and this is what you get." I said, "Okay." They even put it in the wrong spot, so it doesn't make it. The UFO trail is in the wrong place.
Yeah.
It's just someplace that worked for the forestry department. So, where was I at?
That is crazy.
It is. Kevin can probably get you a good.
I have one. I'm going to send to you guys. I just want you guys to see it.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, so the light all dissipated and there was a triangular type craft, small one, sitting inside, because you got to remember these trees aren't very far apart. Okay. And at that point in time, I terminated the downed aircraft and I initiated a helping hand situation, security response option. The helping hand, what that means is a telephonic up-channel report of a possible hostile situation affecting the war-making readiness of the twin bases and prior to A, B, and C resources. Okay, that's the term for it. So the thing is, I kept my security checks up because of Caban's Act, so I initiated everything there and the new security response option. So I'm still working, and I think that kept me grounded, to be honest with you. Working.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, like I said, the feelings of fear and everything like that, I said, well, it didn't explode. It's not doing nothing. I feel better, I feel better about it. And I said, well, I don't know. I said, maybe if I turned around and looked at Kabanzak, who was like 50 feet away, and he was like motionless. And I turned over around the Burrows, and he was like 20 feet away, and he wasn't moving. I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to survive this.
Oh,
I said,
Lord.
yeah, I said, I better go ahead and get as much information as I can. That was my job, to make
Right.
sure the headquarters would be able to do something with that and make decisions and all those things. So with that, I had taken pictures all the way up there. Of course, I used all those up. I mean, before you got close enough to the craft, those that were overexposed too. And anyway, I said, well, I'll get as much information as I can. So I started doing my reports. I got my notebook out because I didn't have no film in the camera now. I'm out. And I said, okay, I have nothing to measure with. So I took my pace, my stride, and I walked it off. I said, that's about 9 feet. And it's about, it's sort of hard to tell. I said, with the berm and that. And I said, it looks like 6.5 feet, 7 feet tall. At the top of the dorsal, it was completely black. There was no things that made it airplanes fly, like intake, exhaust. Didn't have them. Didn't have ailerons. Didn't have flaps. It was just solid. But then the light underneath, I wanted to see what that was. So I looked underneath, and that was when I knew that this was nothing that could have been produced by any aircraft company in the world. Okay. It was sitting on the ground about 2.5 feet high, but the landing gear was light. Okay. There was 3 of them, 3 beams. And those beams actually were making indentions in the ground.
Wow.
I said, well, that's pretty unusual. Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll just give you a little background. I had an assignment when I went in the Air Force in 74, 75, something like that, 73. And that's where I got my top secret clearance, by the way, at that time. And it was at SAC headquarters, which is in Omaha, Nebraska. 5 stories underground, command posts. We were bodyguards for the 36 generals that were there. We provided security for the command posts in the building and 8,000 other people. And one of our jobs there is to do security escorts. And our security escorts were for, colonels visiting, NATO, SATO at the time. Whoever was coming, we get briefings of that. Generals.
Did you say 5 stories underground?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah, but I can say it openly now because they built another one. They decommissioned the whole building. It's no longer operational. I think they're making a museum or something out of it. I don't know.
I don't think a lot of people realize how far down those they go.
That's pretty. Yeah, and we used to have to be able to make the response to the command post off it, and we had a run down there, and we had to do it under 2 or 3 minutes. And they had big blast doors all the way down, different blast. It was really secure. And anyway, one of the duties that we had there was to escort, we had a theater inside that building, a movie theater, and they used it for actually briefings and stuff like that. So research and development, which was done by General Harries at the time. I think he was a 1-star. I can't remember now. And anyway, they would give the briefing of all the future craft that they're working on for the next 50 years. Okay?
Wow.
Crazy.
So there was nothing that I was looking at that looked like anything we were planning to do. It just wasn't nothing there like that. It was just impossible. So that's how I come up with the assessment that it wasn't made by any Air Force in the world, and we were and still are, the #1 Air Force in the world. The Russians are not that good. The Chinese aren't that good. I mean,
that's for sure.
They just say they just say they're good so they can get big defense budgets. Okay, make you scare the hell out of you, and you can go ahead and get a big defense budget. So anyway, I was familiar with the research and development. That's what I'm trying to say. Mm-hmm. Long story short, I can't make it short. I'm trying, and
that's okay.
I started to do a 360 around the craft, and when I went around, I was feeling okay then because it hadn't done nothing. It looked inert. Okay, there was no flashing colors or nothing like that, just some light, which I was appreciating because I could see very well walking around the craft.
You couldn't hear anything, could you? You couldn't hear anything, no vibrations or anything. Okay.
Zero, nothing.
Thank you.
And also that what gave I didn't even have the feeling of labored movements anymore. And when I got right up next to it, okay, it was like,
yeah,
it was different. Okay. And so I did the 360, and then I was coming back around, and I seen it had symbols, and I was actually pretty relieved to see it had symbols on the craft. And I'm thinking at that time, boy, I hope it says something like NASA, or
something reassuring.
Yeah, and I get up to it, and the symbols are nothing, not writing, not numbers. I turned them glyphs, the pictorial glyphs. That's what I call them, and they were fascinating. They measured. There was like 5 of them that were like, I got my arms out, so that's about 5-6 feet wide. They were strung out, and there was a big one over the top of the other ones, and that was a big circle with a triangle and 3 little dots going around it. Impressions. And so I thought that was strange. I recorded them. I went back around, and I said, I got. Looks like I got time because the response forces haven't came out yet. So I said, I radioed again. I said, I'm not hearing nothing from CSC Control Center. I said, I'm going to do another walk around. I kept them informed, and I walked around again, and so I felt the craft. It was warm to touch. Now, warm meaning, I don't know, 45, 50 degrees, I'm guessing, okay, based on the air temperature at 32. Anyway, it was smooth like glass, the fabric of this. No rivets, nothing like that. No, it was just solid one, like it was just produced. I don't know. There was nothing. I didn't know how it would be put together. And then I get to the glyphs on the bottom, and they felt like they're etched in there because I'll use the comparison of sandpaper. That's what it felt like, going from glass to sandpaper. I went, oh, they're etched in, which I thought was fascinating. Up among 100,000 other things I was thinking. But the one that fascinated me was the larger one. When I touched the larger one at the top, I mean, it was like a blinding, I'm going to use the term light, white light. I could see nothing. All I could see little bits of like ones and zeros. Man, I was terrified then. Then I gained my wits, and all I did is lift my hand off, and they're gone, and everything was back to the way it was. And I know it wasn't light, and I'll tell you how I know that. I had my night vision. Okay, in night vision, a bright light like that would have took 40 minutes or an hour to regain it. I had my night vision.
Right.
So the technology appeared as light, but it wasn't light. Excuse me.
Sure.
Then after I get back around, I start seeing activity on it. More lights starting up inside, and see lights, movements, colors. And I'm thinking, oh, well, I ain't gonna say what I was thinking, but I said it wasn't good for any program, believe me. And it's not good. Okay, this is not good. So I backed away, and I got on the ground because I thought I must have activated something. Maybe it was going to explode. I didn't know.
Right. It makes sense.
Yeah, I didn't know. I just
Right. How do you know?
I don't know. So I know it's crazy. And
got it.
And then the it generated enough light, and it's all of a sudden got color going and activity, and then it moves back to the trees, which it can't do because I know that thing's 9 feet wide. Okay.
So it distorted somehow to do that. That is very interesting.
It moved in not that far, and it went to a little bit fast past the clearing, and then it raised up to the canopy of the forest because it's lit underneath it, so I could still see in that dark forest. Mm-hmm. And it made just a slight right turn, and it was gone in like a blink of an eye.
Right.
And so I get up. I'm like, I had gotten up, and that's when I heard the other airman that was with me, and I was getting ready to say something to him. He says, "It went that way," and he took off. And we have a policy in the Air Force. First of all, airmen don't make decisions. Mm-hmm. Sergeants make the decisions. Okay. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, you stay as a team. You never break up as a team. Never.
Right.
He took off. So I went after him, and we went 50 feet. Got to a couple fences. One was barbed wire, but I was younger then. I could hop things better. So we just. I couldn't do it today. So we hopped the fence. We went across this farmer's field, and I'm seeing nothing. Okay, it's gone. And so I chased him. I finally catch up with the airman. It's past the farmer's house. I mean, I was exhausted. And I said, "What are you running at? Where are you going? What are you doing?" I was like, "What is wrong with this man?" And he says, "What? I was chasing a UFO." I said, "What UFO?" That's the first thing because I ain't know UFO. UFOs are unidentified flying objects. That thing was sitting on the ground. Okay, I'm not buying that at all. But that's the first thing I was buying. I said, "Well, where did it go?" And he said, "I'll point. You can still see it." I said, "You can?" I couldn't see it. And he takes his arm and he said, "Look down my arm at it." He looks in the opposite direction that we're going, and he said, "You sure it's this way?" "Yeah." He says, over in the horizon. At first I thought it was a couple of houses, and then I said, "Oh, that's the lighthouse." I says, "You've been chasing the lighthouse, or is that you just what?" And when I was getting ready to chew his rear end, which I was getting ready to do, believe me, I looked up over the Cape of Green area, which is Rendlesham Forest, but a little farther past the farmer's area, and there was a craft.
Oh.
I said, "Well, man, it didn't go anywhere. It just, maybe it was so fast or something, It got there, and then it took off really slow over the coastline. Slow, I'm talking based on an A-10 flying or something like that, like 300 miles, 400 miles an hour. It's very slow. That's something a civilian can never get right, by the way. I hear everybody telling me how fast they're going. "Oh, really? How do you know?" They don't know. They're just guessing. But I'm thinking that the speed of this must have been in excess of 3,500 miles an hour.
Yes.
Reason being, that would be a bullet. You couldn't see a bullet. It would look like a bullet disappeared. I mean, you just can't see it. And of course, afterwards, we found out more from patrol centers and radar and all this other stuff. And then we made our way back, and then I had to. On the way back, we got back to the East Gate. There was a lot of people there, believe me. And so I caught a ride back to the Central Security Bureau. I had to turn my M16 stuff. And I think the law enforcement took the law enforcement people to the LE desk. That is the Rendlesham Forest incident in a nutshell. Okay, and believe me, it's a lot of brevity there. I know it doesn't sound like there's brevity, but please give me some questions.
Yeah, you want to start?
So the
before you go.
Okay.
I left out something really
One
important.
more. Okay, go ahead.
I know. This I'm saying brevity, but it's important.
It's okay.
When that craft took off, there was no air displacement. Okay.
Yes.
And everything I know has to have air displacement, you know, from the engines running.
Right.
And then there was no sonic boom.
Right.
It would have had to have that.
Yep.
So no air displacement and no sonic boom, and that's impossible.
That is.
I think.
Yeah.
Not unless they come up with a new technology or something like that. Stops sonic booms. Anyway, your question, I'm sorry.
How old were you at that time?
Let's see. 26, 27, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Hey, yeah, I'll tell you what, when I was 21, I was in charge of security for ICBM missile field with 10 missiles, you know, and MIRV warheads. So, you know, you get a lot of responsibility really fast in the Air Force.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one question I have, and then I'll let you have your questions. As it was there and these beams were holding it up, there was no form of, what is the term when you see the smoke coming out from anything? There was no smoke ever. Exhaust. Thank you. Yeah. Nothing.
Yeah, there's no intake or exhaust. No.
Yeah. And
you gotta have an intake. You gotta have exhaust. You gotta have a crew. They didn't have crew compartments. They have windows.
Well, that's what we thought at the time. Yeah.
Right. So the beams, where were the binary codes at? Were they underneath it?
They were in the. Well, you explain it all.
Or on the side of it?
They were when he touched that thing.
No, that is apparently I activated something. Apparently, we know afterwards now. I didn't know at the time, but matter of fact, I didn't know for like 30 years that that was a code. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was binary. But the one thing is, I had went home, and I, couldn't sleep. All the trauma, man. It was like,
sure.
Gosh.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
That was one of the questions.
It's like God Almighty. I was like,
it makes
so I couldn't sleep, and I got back up, and I grabbed my notebook because I was going to look at my notes, because at that point in time I said, "Did this actually happen?"
Right. Right.
And I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I knew I was in trouble emotionally, and when I flipped it on, and I says, I can see those ones and zeros. So, and I described this in detail in the book, and I says, I think I can write them down, man. In my mind's eye. So I could see it. So I started writing. Got to the back of the book. That's the only place I had free paper, and I started writing in it. And I wrote maybe a line or two of them, and I felt better. So when I felt better, I just kept going. I said, okay, that was working. And I recorded, I think it was 16 pages in that notebook at the end of it. And I got to a point that I couldn't see ones and zeros anymore, and I felt tired. And the funny thing is, I had gotten up and I made a pot of coffee after not sleeping, so I didn't think I was going to go to sleep. But I was so exhausted after doing that, I went to bed, and I slept for like 12 hours. So, and also I was so relieved. I think that was the big thing. And I'm not even thinking about writing the ones and zeros. All I know is it helped, because the only other option I was thinking about is go to the base hospital up to the base. And I said, that's not going to work. What do I tell them? I investigated a craft of unknown origin at Woodbridge the day before.
Yeah, what are you going to say? That's what I said.
I'm seeing ones and zeros. This is not going to end well. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll probably, get these certified. They'll start separation orders or something, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So really, at that point in time, the binary was actually, it actually relieved me of that. I woke up the next day and I felt great. Considering all that stuff that happened the day before and the night before, it was like, that was amazing.
Mm.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, but then I'm thinking, why would they have, which I'm sure there's a explanation for it, because you touched something and activated it. You can't help but wonder, why would they have it on the outside?
I don't know.
Isn't that's
all
I find
I
that
could do is guess.
fascinating.
I'm going to tell you what. One of the things I mentioned in the book again, and like I said, I never used the term UFO in this a reason, because UFO's got a connotation that's alien or something, and it's definitely not that. I never had that feeling. But the thing was, it had similarities to the way we do things. Like, we put markings on our aircraft.
Right.
True.
Okay.
Right.
That's true.
On the outside.
Yeah.
That's true.
We didn't have triangular craft back then, but they did come out, you know, some like 5 or 10 years later. You know, it's Skunk Works or something like that.
Right.
But the other thing is, I never thought it was man. The impressions I got at the time, and I got a lot of impressions, was that it was unmanned. It was, and we didn't have a thing called drones. That it wasn't even a word then. We didn't have that stuff.
We didn't have that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, it's all stuff that's human. I'm mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't feel like there was anybody
more likely.
No.
You didn't feel like anybody was in the craft, that it was more like something sent from a bigger craft.
Yeah, and the other thing is, I had a feeling that it was experiencing difficulty, trouble.
Yeah.
Oh.
I didn't land there because I wanted to, I guess.
Yeah, because
I mean,
that's such an odd place.
Well, yeah, there's a lot better places to land.
Yeah. Like in a football field.
You know, of course, you know, it left all the residual evidence, you know, the radiation, the tree markings, the indentions. All this was investigated by Sergeant Nevels the next day, by order of Colonel Conrad, the base commander.
What went through your mind, Jim, as you saw this thing, you know, move about in an area that it shouldn't have been able to move about in?
Well, I didn't think of that at the moment when it was happening. Going back to that thought didn't come until after I was like going back to Central Security Control. Like, how did I go through those trees?
Yeah.
You know, I was like asking myself questions like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
wouldn't that have kind of spoken to you that this can't be something from Earth, because nothing that we have can, you know, maneuver to shrink or move, or, you know, it was obviously, I'm forgetting the word I want to use right now. I hate that when that happens. But morphing, you know, to to maneuver, morphing to maneuver.
I can't. You're both. I didn't catch it. You're both talking.
Oh,
what was that?
Did you feel like it might have been morphing to maneuver through the trees when you thought about it later, which wouldn't have been anything the United States Air Force or anybody else could have done at that time?
Right. Like I said, I didn't think about it till later, but I don't know, the word morph I would never use that term. I just couldn't figure out how it did it, because those are solid trees and it was solid. I mean, I knew the object was solid. I was sitting there, you know, manhandling it. You know? What am I doing? You know, so it was perplexing. I couldn't understand it. And there, you know, I don't know about you, but when I went in, I never believed in any of that stuff with UFOs.
I never did either.
No, of course not, because most of it's just stuff people can identify. And but my whole viewpoint changed after I went into the Rendlesham Forest and left. I mean, I was like, well, how do I explain all this? You know, and how do I? And I'll tell you what, I wrote a whole chapter on the Air Force. They're very supportive. Um, they actually gave me a I call him an angel, you know, but what he was is somebody that I could go to anytime, no matter what base I was at, and talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you who he was. It's in the book. Is Colonel Charles Heibush. And he replaced Malcolm Zickler, the squadron commander, right after this incident. There's an oddity. Why would a lieutenant colonel replace a major? You know, it doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I got promoted. I was in. It was like 2 months later or so, 3 months later, and I'm now the NCOIC of non-commissioned officer in charge of security police plans and programs. I wrote all the defense plans for the base and our contingency plan, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, when a new squadron commander got there, they got a call. My boss tells me, he says, Colonel Heibush, the new commander, wants to see you up there. I went, oh, no problem. So I figured he wants a briefing on some of our contingency plans and stuff like that. So I grabbed a couple classified plans and I hightailed up there to his office, and I go on in and I report to him. And he says, "What do you got?" and all this stuff. And I said, "Oh, you want any plans you want to know about?" Or no. He says, "Just put that stuff down." He says, "You want a cup of coffee?" I went, "Sure."
Yeah.
He had the lieutenant get us a cup of coffee. He went and shut all the doors. He says, "I'm Chuck Heibush. I just came from the Pentagon." He says, "Security Police Intelligence," and
Wow.
he says,
Mm-hmm.
I read your statement that you wrote to that said the Pentagon." He says, "I'm here if you have any problems or if you need help." I said, "Wow." I says, "Okay, I appreciate it." And I'll tell you what, and that carried on. And I left that base. I went to other bases. He left there. Anyway, I was at Bitburg Air Base in Germany, and he comes down for inspection and something like. He was chief of Security Police Europe then when he got promoted, and I get a call, and I'm on patrol, and I get a call to go down. And they said, "There's some officer asking for you." Okay. So I thought I did something wrong there. I didn't know what I did. So I got down there and I see it was Colonel Heibush. And my God, so what are you doing here? And so I'm in charge. So we went to lunch. He says, "Anything else happening? Do you want to talk?" I said, "Oh yeah, all kinds of stuff, And so he's my guardian angel that way. And even that was years later. I think that was happened when that happened. It was like 87, 88. I don't know. It's all described there. It's really a lot of stuff to it. I mean, so I'm really appreciative of the Air Force. I mean, they never thought it was crazy. No one laughed about it. Everybody took it way seriously because of the mission of the base.
Right.
I mean, so there was scuttlebutt going around, and they started, stories. The stories that were to to
Discredit.
make it go away.
Yeah, to discredit it. Yeah.
Well, make it as like any. And I'll tell you, what really made it easy for him
Mm-hmm.
is after Monroe Neville's investigated that morning all morning, he goes back with Lieutenant England to that's the guy's name, Lieutenant England. He goes back to the officers club at Woodbridge to see Colonel Conrad, and they're having some kind of party, and he talks to Conrad, and he asks him questions. Does it warrant more investigation? They're talking about the first night, investigating the first night sighting, the contact point and stuff like that. He says, "Yeah, it does." He says, "We need to run more radiation samples and stuff like that." And he said, "You mind going back off?" And he says, "No, I don't mind." And that's when Colonel Hall got involved. He said, "Hey, I want to go." Sergeant Neville's, "Can I go with you?" Like Neville said, "What am I going to do?" He's a colonel. "No, you can't." I mean, he said, "Okay." And that's when Colonel Hall came out. And Monroe, I wasn't there, but Monroe's accounting and Colonel Halt's accounting, they said there was 5 lights. They seen lights in the sky. Okay, they were doing movement and stuff like that. So that there, it created a story, I guess.
It was like a worldwide phenomenon at the time.
Well, what it does is just it hides the first night.
Yeah.
But that by talking about and that's what they did. It was just by design, to do that. So, well, we have it's in the book. We tell you how the cover story went and how they make it just, what you guys call a UFO story. Okay.
Yeah.
All that stuff. I mean, it's just another story.
Did y'all go back out the next day and investigate the
surrounding area?
The area where it all happened?
There was all kinds of people from out there, went out there the next day. Myself and the airman who I was giving a ride to back and forth to town, because that's where we lived. And he wanted to go there. He wanted to go there right after the incident. We went out there, and that's when we ran into all the other security police. I remember I gave them the grid board, and it's like, that's what I was plotting. They knew exactly where it was at. And then the law enforcement airman was hollering at him. He said, "Come over here, look at this, look at this." I go over, and, there was the 3 indentions in the ground. And I go, "Yeah?" He said, "Well, it's got 3 indentions in the ground." I says, "Yeah." And he says, "Well," he says, "Don't you think that's sort of fantastic?" And I was like, that's not really. I'm thinking, not after what I've seen. That's just that the prints. Nothing.
That's what happened.
That's what. And I said to him, I says, "So, did you see the craft?" He goes, "No, I didn't see no craft." He said, "I said, well, what were you chasing?" "What were you chasing?" "I was chasing you." "What were you chasing then?" And he shut up and never said nothing. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if he was just frozen in time, scared to death. I don't know. I have no idea. But we did go back out there. But I tell you what, they cordoned the area off. They had a plane come in from Langley Air Force Base 3 or 4 days later, civilians, and they cordoned off the area, and I think they ran like ground samples and stuff. I don't really know what they did, but no one could go back in there, and they were done in, I would say, 24 or 48 hours, and they packed up and flew back out. So
were the branches on the trees burnt? Or broken?
According to Monroe Neville's, you can tell where it went up through the trees.
Yeah.
And but I don't know, but there was broken branches. And the thing was, there's high levels of beta radiation.
Oh.
And that's why they told me that the craft wasn't warm. The craft was radioactive.
Mm-hmm.
I said, "My God!" He said, "I don't think I'd worry too much. It's beta radiation." I said, "Well, I don't know." And I said, "Is that good?" And he said, "Well, it's better than gamma." He said, "Gamma, you might be getting cancer from or something." But
right, that's very serious.
Yeah, he said it has a short lifespan. He says, but there was a lot of it because it was still recordable when Monroe Neville's went out there something like 12 hours later. And he says that's not the way it's supposed to be. He says it's not supposed to be that way.
Did you have anything on your hands because you had touched it? So,
no.
It's really surprising that you didn't have any radiation or any form of issue from being that close to the craft. I know I was, farther away from mine, so I was safe, but you were right up next to it.
Yeah, but Monroe says beta clothing will stop beta radiation.
Yeah, thank God.
I didn't know. I didn't know that. And I saw it. There was that in the ground sampling. There was higher radiation, but it was only on the ground 45 minutes. I mean, it wasn't like a lot of time.
That's a lot of
You know,
time to be right there, I think.
I thought I had all kinds of time. I was waiting for the response teams because I said this ain't going anywhere. I didn't think it was going to go anywhere.
Well, they were
See, I never seen
they were chasing a lighthouse, weren't they?
Yeah, those guys.
Yeah, I never even seen the landing. I never seen the landing. Afterwards, of course, I talked to people in security that were working at Bentwaters, 3 miles away. He said, "Oh yeah, we see it land." I went, really? So why didn't you call me? He goes, "No way, I was going to call that in." That's what he says. I wasn't going to call that in. Yeah.
Good.
So that's the thought process of the Air Force at the time. Oh, I don't think I'm going to do that. So we shun away from it. And all I've done with Rendlesham just stick to the facts, and that's what we got to do. That's like they said. Well, when you ask questions about probable, what do you think it was? Well, it didn't come with a nomenclature. It didn't have one, so I called it craft unknown origin, and that's what it was exactly. I didn't know what it was.
And you never experienced any missing time because you were working, so everything was being accounted for, correct?
Nope. My watch is 45 minutes off going into CSC, and that's noted by. Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
They don't know whether the electronic field. People guess. They don't know what caused it. They don't know if it's missing time. They don't know if it's missing time. I'll tell you right now, it didn't feel like I was down there 45 minutes. It felt like the whole thing happened like in 5 minutes.
I know. Yeah, that happened to me.
Yeah.
But I had emotions going on, so. But the neat thing about it, and the reason I know none of the accuracy of this, when I get back to Central Security Control, when I talk to Coffee and the lieutenant and all these people, they says, "Oh, we knew what was going on." He said, "We heard every word you transmitted. We could hear you."
Really?
See, I didn't know that. Yeah,
Oh,
I
wow.
I couldn't hear them. They could hear me. I was so glad I was transmitting that. And the thing is, if you ever hear about tapes, the wing command post at the time, and I know that Terry knows this. I don't know if you will, April, but we had reel-to-reels at the wing command post, and they taped all the emergency nets and the conversation on radio nets for 72 hours. That tape was picked up by General Gabriel, the Commander-in-Chief of Europe for U.S. Air Force. His plane came in, and he picked that tape up personally. So
That's saying something.
That's interesting.
these are all, these are all facts. I mean,
Right. Right.
Like.
That's what I love
So,
about
yeah,
your account. It's all facts,
Yeah, and I suppose you could take some, and nowadays we know all these people that are UFO opportunists and entertainers. They would love to have us been out there and had an account like that, and they would have just embellished and made things up and done all kinds of stuff. And we did have some people do that with Rendlesham,
Yeah.
So that's a shame.
Did anything come out of the binary code that you can share with viewers?
All of it's detailed in the book.
You gotta get the book.
So
you gotta
buy the
get
book.
the book.
I tell you. Oh, yeah, but look at the. Okay.
Yeah.
See this? Look at the size of this. This book is huge.
It is huge. I know. I have it.
Yeah, it's like 780 pages. What was the question? I got distracted with the book. Did anything come out of the binary?
Well, I mean, you don't have to say everything because obviously
Oh,
people should get that book because it is absolutely
Well, no.
amazing.
Well, I just don't. I don't have no problem telling you what's in the book. That's fine, but I just don't know a lot of things about the work that Gary did on it, the co-author of the book. He's the researcher with that.
Yeah.
And what came out of it, there were 7 coordinates. 2 of them were repeated twice at the beginning and the end, and all around the world. And anyway, Gary has done research and has it verified that this code, there's a code within the code. Okay, this is pretty deep, and this code could only happen on the with the planet like on December 26, 1980. Okay, but the whole thing is the technology for it wasn't even invented until
Right.
2019.
Right.
2019.
Right.
That's when they could go, oh, here's what it means.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was in there is and I can't remember what's the term. Anyway, I can't think Carl Sagan came up with the term. He says, throughout the universe, if anybody answered a message in that, you would have this whatever it is with these numbers. I can't remember. I can't remember what they are. Gary had to do it. But anyway, the chances of them being found instead of code are something like 1 in 13,000 trillion. I mean, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
There's no way. Okay, and that's some of the stuff that is being factualized. And actually, Gary Osborne, he has done the research, and he has a book, and I think I'm going to have something to do with it, coming out here real soon. I'm not going to put much information. Most of it's his research, but
Yes.
it's foolproof, you know. So doing what I call foolproof, he's challenged anybody going. He says, find an error with it.
I look forward to reading that book.
Yeah, and there's like top scientists who go, we can't find anything wrong with it.
Yes.
And so that's going to be a very interesting book. I'm looking forward to it. And as you can tell, I am not a tech guy or a science guy, so that's why I'm going to enjoy it. And you know what? I said to Gary, I said, whatever you do, I said, dumb it down really good for me. I said, so I can understand it. And he did. So that makes it easier because I got to have it sort of pretty dumbed down. You know,
So where can we tell people to buy your book?
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com.
Amazon.com. You have the Rendlesham Enigma. I'm going to tell you what, here's a good deal. If you got Amazon Prime,
Yes.
you can get the ebook free.
What?
Oh, wow.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I hope our listeners are
And
paying attention to that. You
ebook.
can get it free. Yeah.
Yeah,
in an ebook.
And the ebook inside of it, the ebook has all colored pictures. Matter of fact, you've been seeing them on the screen. Some of those colored pictures that are from that book, or from that the ebook one. And I tell you what, it's a lot better because I don't know about you guys, but I like paper when I'm reading. I like a book. I don't like the digital stuff myself.
Yes, that is an excellent book. And my copy is signed by you, so you can't do that with an ebook.
Where did I sign that at?
Oh my gosh, I don't remember. It might have been in Chicago. Maybe Chicago? That was way back, like 2013 or 14, maybe 15?
No, 2019 is what the book came out in 2019.
Okay, I can't remember.
Well, it had to be in
I've seen you in so many different places. I don't remember.
Maybe it was Nevada when you, huh?
It probably was in Nevada.
Yeah,
but I could not attest to it. I don't remember. I don't.
That makes sense because that's the only time I actually I ordered books and signed them at a
it must have. Yeah, it must have been there.
Because I don't push the book at any conference I go to. And I tell you what, like the in the desert thing, when I was talking to them, they wanted me to go on that. And they said, "Well, you set it up and you have books." So they're not going to sell no books. Who's going to sell books? They go, everybody does down here. I go, well, I'm not doing it. I
Too
said,
much
you
like
want
work.
No, I mean, well, you know what? I have nothing against anybody. And I'll tell you what, I've been places speaking, and people bring the book. I'll sign the book, no
Yes,
problem.
yeah.
I'll sign the other one too that I did with Nick. So I've done a couple of them too. I can't remember.
Would that be Nick Pope?
Yeah, Nick Pope.
Yeah, I think it was like I think the last time someone had all the books, and they had a couple of Gary's, and Gary wasn't with me. I said, I said, I'll sign what I can. I said, but I said, Gary's signature, I said, is really rare. So he's got like 5, 6 books out, different subjects and stuff like that. But
I think the time you signed it, and it may have been out in Nevada, there was an astronaut. You and I took a picture with an astronaut.
that was a symposium in Irvine, California.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. You are getting closer all the time.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah, that's right. That guy was a shuttle pilot or something like that. Really interesting guy to talk
Yes, he was. He really was.
Yeah, you know what? And I also met, for the first time, we talked for ages on the internet and stuff, but the first time was, Walton.
Oh.
I met him there.
Yeah.
Travis,
yeah. He's a good friend. He's a wonderful guy. And I love his account of what happened too. And it's been wonderful talking with him. We're hoping to have him on here in a couple weeks, so you can come back and visit the program when he's on, sharing with our listeners.
That was a nice experience. He gave me a lot of insight on stuff. Like when I asked him questions, not there at the time, but I mean, like on the internet and stuff. Like he was always most gracious to answer.
Yes,
and this had nothing to do with the sightings and stuff like that.
He's just a nice guy. Mm-hmm.
He is. He is a very nice guy.
Yeah, Kevin and him went out Bigfoot hunting in the Green Swamp in Florida when we had him out there. Kevin wrangled him up and went out.
But Terry, that's the difference between witnesses and these opportunists and entertainers.
Yeah.
The lecture circuit speakers that haven't seen nothing, or they claim they have or something, but they're just out to make a buck off people, and it just irritates me. It does. So Oh, by the way, no, my money on this book, all my money's gone to my charities. I don't collect any royalties off.
Well, good for you.
That's why I don't have no problem saying, hey, you can get a free copy by having Amazon Prime. I don't mind.
Yeah, hey, thanks for that tip. A lot of people are going to be grateful for that.
Right.
Well, I guess we've come to the top of the hour and beyond a little, but that's okay. But you've got a website, and that is on, let's see, Rendlesham Forest Incident.com.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I tell you what, it's a great blog. It has everything on it. It also has things that are not so attractive for me, and some things that are pretty nice for me. And but the reason is it's just it tells the whole aspect of it. So it's a good site for researchers. It was developed by Darren DuBois. You've met him, Terry. You still don't think you know him, but you have met him. He's with me and stuff.
I've met a lot of people. I don't remember names, but shout out to
crazy,
Darren.
Isn't it? It's crazy, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But it's been a long, long time I've been in this field, and with my own experience speaking all over as well. So, but thank you so much for being on tonight, Jim. This has been wonderful. I so appreciate you sharing with our listeners your account and what happened to you. I love going over all these little details, because these things changed our lives. I know it changed yours. And I know that there is a whole panoply other than what you've shared. I mean, there is so much that has happened because of that incident in your life. And of course, unfortunately, we don't have time to go into all that. Maybe we can have you back sometime and we can talk about other aspects of things, which would be wonderful. And if you're ever in the area, please come and visit Kevin and I here in Paris, Tennessee. We'd love to have you. Love to have you if you need a vacation.
Well,
thank you so
I tell
much.
you what, it's really nice meeting you too, April. And
thank you.
Terry, it sounds like we wouldn't have nothing to talk about.
Oh my gosh, I know. Well, yeah, I know. That's so true. Whenever I have anybody that, has, like yourself and myself that have had these experiences, we're up for hours. It's hard to go to bed because there's just so much energy in sharing all these things that are overlapping in the story, that we all can identify to. It's just amazing that these things happen. And I say that to our listeners all the time. These things can happen and do happen, and that's why we're here and we're sharing these things with us. But again, thank you so much. And I do want to address, I do want to address our listeners also. We do want to hear from you. And so reach out to us and let us know who you'd like to see on the show next and what questions that you might be wondering about. If you've got any questions for Jim, reach out to him at his places there that we shared. And I hope that you will reach out to us and share who you'd like to see on the show next. So, yes. So you can email us at hauntedparis@usa.com, and we're also on Facebook at Paris Paranormal, and you can find out about us as well on YouTube on our Enigmatic Anomalies channel at YouTube at enigmaticanomalies.com. So that kind of wraps us up.
Yep.
What do you think? What an awesome night, huh?
I know.
I know.
I'm speechless.
Yeah, she's speechless.
Which is
No, not yet. So, and remember, if you'd like to see someone featured here on our show, reach out to us. Look us up, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons for us because that really does help us out. So thanks for tuning in tonight. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and we'll see you next week for another great show here on Paris Paranormal.
Paranormal.
Bye now.